Okay, people, so now it's still April 28th, 2020. I'm on to batch now 3. This is batch 1. This is batch 2. I just did it. Here is the potato starch. So what you do after you've done that, you put it in there and then you run it through there. But before you put it in there, you have to run the liquid that has the starch in it through a strainer to pick off the little bits of, maybe potato, right? And in case you miss something, you just put all this in there and rub it so that you get a nice powder. Do you see? And that's potato starch. Okay? Yesterday, when we were coming back, I asked my son if we could just stop off at a local farmer's market, right? And so we did that. You can see what I did, right? I bought 2 of these. They're kind of expensive, people. Look how much. But this is the real deal. So what I'm going to do, at some point, I am going to get some jars. I'm going to sterilize them, boil them in water for 10 minutes, and then I'm going to put them in the oven for 250 and dry them out, get them nice and dry. And then after, I'll take them out, let them cool, and then I'm going to fill up a jar for long-term storage, and then fill up the other jar, right, for whatever. And then these containers, maybe I'll use them for ice cream when I make ice cream, right? Because I prefer to store my stuff in jars, people. Okay, now Tupperware, the good old Tupperware back in the day, I'm telling you, this is a really good brand. I remember my mother coming home with these things, and I was just a kid. And like, honest to God, they don't leach. They're very good at food storage, right? So if you ever come across them, I highly recommend buying them. So after you put your potatoes in there, you can go like this, right? You see what I'm doing? And what it does is it just kind of makes everything fall and get a little heavier. And then, of course, I'm going to fill this up, right, to the top. And then, because I've already got some, I'll probably keep this one out with my carrots, but I've got those other ones in there, so whatever. And then, I prefer glass, but because I still got a half a bag to go, what I'm going to do is start filling up this container. This big one, you can see. So by the time I'm done, this will be completely full of this. Plus I'll have that. And plus I'll have my potato starch, right? All for $35. Hold on. Okay, people, so what is it? The 28th of April, right? 2020. So basically what's happening here is my jars have been in the oven now at 250, right? For quite a long time. You don't need them in there very long, like 15 minutes or something like that, in order to be able to sterilize them. But they've probably been in here for at least a good half an hour anyway, 45 minutes. So now I'm going to bring them out, right? Now the thing about honey, though, is it has its own antibacterial properties that you don't really need to do this, but because it's going into storage, I want to. And I've decided to use this size so that when I pull them out, it's just better, right? Yeah. Oh my God. Sure. Break a jar in here, right? Oh my. Hot. I don't want to drop them. Okay. We'll start with those ones first. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. They're good. Oh. I don't know how many jars I need. I have 11 in here. I don't think I'm going to need 11. But oh my. I didn't put these on a tray. That's why this is happening. I should have had them on a tray. Whoa. It's because they're hot. I can't touch them. Right? So, what I'm going to do now is just let them cool. And then I'm going to fill them up with honey. I'm going to start with this one first. Look at that. It says, product of Canada and or the good old USA. Alright. So, let me fill this up. Be right back. Okay, well you don't get much for $102. But it's good honey. Alright. Anyway, as you can see, so I really like these little buckets, right? So after, you know, they're empty, I'll wash them. And then I'm going to make ice cream, people. And I'm going to use these buckets for ice cream. In the meantime, I've got that. So I'm really happy with that. I want to do it again at some point. Right? I'm just going to let these... I disinfected my lids. I boiled them for a few minutes. Right? So... wipe the rim. Now you see, I want to get a clean cloth, just wipe the rim a bit. Right? And then hold on. Okay, so considering all things said, I guess that's like gold, right? It's pretty tasty. It really is. It's a little different than your standard honey. So, okay, people, you see my flags? Those are just little flags. So it's like March 29th, 2020. April 29th, 2020. I've been somewhat... I'm mulling in my head, people, this problem that I have in regards to... In my province, nobody seems to be concerned about how vulnerable people really are in terms of the predatory nature around government employees capitalizing off of the demise of innocent people, vulnerable families, right? Whether they're children, youth, adults, or the elderly. As a family unit that, you know, goes into an individual category, and you know, with what's going on with this distorted reality that we have going right now with this coronavirus, right, as if this is the only so-called pandemic that people have had to face. Like, I was watching a video the other day where some dude got up in there, I don't know, he was 64 years old or something like that, maybe a little older. And he was going on about, you know, he went through SARS, he went through MERS, he went through this, that, and there was a whole long list of them. Which we all did, people. And, you know, this playbook that our governments are using right now as a colluded group of individuals, just remember, it only takes 3 to form a criminal organization. Okay? And for as much as these politicians and health ministers that came out of nowhere, right? And you see them every day now, right? As they feed us numbers that can't be fact-checked. For example, in the province of British Columbia, Canada, there are, I'm pretty sure she said so far with the coronavirus, there was 109 deaths since this all started. Out of, what was it, 5.2 million people? Right? Over 5 million people. 109 deaths, people. And they're treating the public less than children. People treat children better than what these politicians are treating us. Okay? But for some reason, people are oblivious to it. Now, I know for some people, like an immigrant population, right, that's in these big-ass houses out here, okay, doesn't, you know, they're already self-isolated in a larger sense. So for them to self-isolate on a smaller sense, it's nothing to them, people. It just feeds into their bigotries and their racisms and their classism and their, you know, self-importance, right? As they continue to build wealth, basically, for their own kind. They're not doing it for the collective, because if they were doing it for the collective, Ciera would have gotten more services. Okay? So, anyway, I'm in a dilemma because I know what's going on in terms of the corruption within our government. Okay? But I never see the government talk about their own corruption. Never. And even if something did crop up, people, and it goes to court, you know how that works out for them. No comment. It's in court, right? They don't talk about it, right? And they stall for time so that they don't have to fucking deal with it. And they'll single out a fall guy, right? So that the person takes the fall, but not the government, right? So that it can be business as usual. So for a lot of people sitting in their houses right now, they're, you know, well insulated within their personal environment. And being that a lot of these people are directly involved with the underground economy, right? It doesn't affect them again as to what happens in the real world of real people. Because right now, in my opinion, right, I think that we're living under a false illusion, because for all these 109 deaths, nothing is being fact-checked, because the government has ensured at a previous date, long time ago, for this day now, to make sure that nobody could go back and double-check to see if what the government is telling us is true. Because there's no venue, there is no avenue to do that. We can't get independent autopsies out here, people, to fact check these 109 deaths. We have to take what the government tells us, right, for face value. And they don't even tell you the whole truth, people. I'd be very surprised if this government, or any British Columbian government in terms of in Canada, would openly talk about what happened to ShaMay's body after it was removed from this house. I would doubt that a government in British Columbia, Canada, would talk openly about how the emergency wards, right, the emergency department, is the go-to between bringing the body in through the emergency door and then transporting that body to an operating room, whether alive or whether dead, for the facilitation of illegal organ harvesting, right? Which could be sold to universities for students to look at and do whatever students do. It could be sold to facilities that do experiments and need organs for that purpose. It could be sold for illegal transplant of organs. And it could also even be sold as a form of protein to supplement a food source. I've already shown you 4 areas where somebody's going to want those organs. Currently, all we have legally is to harvest organs in a legal sense for transplant. That's not good enough, because these organs are being taken out of the body as they're going into the emergency rooms, but we're just not finding out about it, people, because normally people in their grief, they're not paying attention. That is my dilemma, right? Because what happened to Ciera just kind of, you know, added more to the table, right? Because not only are we dealing with police misconduct and how they carried out their investigation, right, supposedly on the day she died, but we're also looking at the inappropriate and misappropriate and at the misconduct of the coroner's office, right, by denying us, her family, the right to identify Ciera, knowing that it was going to be a cat and mouse game until we could, and there was no guarantee that I could. That only came through the funeral home, and that was 19 days after she supposedly died, people. Because in my mind, just by the way the police and the coroner were acting, right along with that person named John himself, in regards to what he had to say, none of it adds up, right? And because I didn't even have an opportunity to do a second forensic autopsy, not that I could afford to do it, but I should have had that right, people. Because other people are going to find themselves one day in the same position as me, and they're not going to be able to do it no matter how much money they have. There's that vacuum. There's that divide. There is that what the government wants. Okay? Out of 5 million people, they don't want nobody challenging the government on the issues that I'm talking about right now. And me going in by myself, whether I do it through a notice of civil claim, which is my only method really, you know, I mean, it's not going to get the results that need to happen in order to get those fact checks. Because out of 109 people, we don't know if they all died from the coronavirus, people. There could be malpractice in there. There could be straight up fucking murder in there. They could have been hit with energy weapons before they even went in. I'm now starting to show you how energy weapons actually work, okay, because I have them documented on video, people. The Project Blue Beam is not the only energy weapon that has gone through my yard. Understand that. Or in my house. And if they're doing it in my house and in my yard, they're doing it elsewhere. And if they have an agenda like, oh, let's all jump onto the same board game and play out of the same playbook as we build wealth for ourselves and power and, you know, power mongers, right? That spread fear. They are power mongers that spread fear with skewed numbers in terms of 109 deaths out of 5.2 million people. And I, the health minister, I am not going to let you get back to a normal reality because I said so, because I am looking at freaking this country. I am looking at that country and so on. And then I'm going to bring it back to my province. And then I'm going to sit there, and tell you how to live your life for the rest of your life. As they build in more draconian legislation, people. This is something that I could see the BC Liberal government doing. But the NDP, like, I am so disgusted right now with the NDP for jumping on the bandwagon and running with, and it's not, they weren't groveling. Well, they do grovel. They grovel. Oh, you know, you just hang in there and smile and, you know, be nice to each other. Be kind. Be kind. Well, anybody that's a fucking adult knows that the world is not kind. So, you know, for as much as you spew your rhetoric, right? You're sure quick to jump on that power mongering fucking bandwagon that has basically decimated my grandchildren's futures, right? Into a fucking zombie land. Now I wrote this down. Okay. I really want to say though, you know, thank you for all those people that support my family and have been giving me thumbs up. I don't show them because back in the day, we all know that after Uncle John got medically kidnapped, you know, I got fucking hit hard because, you know, they didn't want to get caught. So what better way than to stalk me, gang stalk, you know, harass, make threats, you know, just the whole 9 yards to distract away from what they actually did to Uncle John. So, you know, back in those days, I just put everything can't see. But, you know, with these days now, I guess, you know, people are feeling different. You know, I've got more of a supportive group behind me. I'm not so alone sitting up in Canada in the fucking boonies, right? Because I'm sure the majority of these happy people and supportive people are coming from the States. That's what I like about Americans. They actually stand up for human rights. And I just want to say thank you very much. I'm kind of lost for words right now because, I don't know, maybe I'm mourning my daughter, Ciera. You know, I've been mourning Ciera, though, for a long, long time. You know, Ciera put me through a lot, and put the whole family through a lot. Always worried for Ciera. You know what? Even now, in that casket where they put her in the ground, I'm worried. I'm wondering if what they did was even fucking normal. Because it wasn't in a ground, people. It was in a cement box. They put that casket into a cement box. Now, I thought, honest to God, I thought graves like that where the casket itself actually went into the ground. That's why when, you know, we were there, I don't know who said it, but where's the dirt? How come we can't throw dirt into it? Oh, well, you can't because you don't want to cross-contaminate. What the fuck? You don't want to cross-contaminate dirt. Like, all this shady shit that's going around Ciera, like, I don't, like, false illusion, people. They've got us living in a false illusion. You can't take a handful of dirt. There wasn't even any dirt there, people. Okay? When I looked into that hole, it was encased with cement. On the grass, you could see the cement slab that they would have put on top. Oh, and then they come in with a truckload of dirt because there was no dirt around there. It was sitting on a fucking truck. As we're being told that we can't be throwing dirt in there because we'd cross-contaminate the dirt. Right? I'm told, make sure to have 6 people to carry the casket, okay, right? So we're only allowed 10, so that wasn't too hard to do, right? You know what I'm saying? And then when we get there, now we're being told that the city doesn't want us carrying the casket. They want their own guys carrying the casket, right? With their masks on. And of course, nobody was in sync with their fashion. They look like just random off the street fucking, I don't know what that was, with 4 on each side. If you notice, they put her casket on that whatever, and it was on a slant. And you know, and I'm like, I'm these are all new experiences for me, people. I'm kind of in shock. You know, I'm kind of in shock because, like I said, I know what's going on because I have been living it. That's why I showed you those houses when we went to go bury Ciera. Because those houses are being built right across the fucking province like it's no tomorrow. And as fast as they're building them, they're either killing off the people that were coming out of the ones that were getting torn down one by one, or they're fucking bankrupting them, or they're locking them up into old folks' homes just as fast as they're clearing them out by shutting off the fucking IV with the water. You won't hear that Minister for Health talk about that, right? No, you won't. You won't. You won't hear them talk about how the old people are being targeted in their houses. As soon as they go to the hospital, even for a fucking scratch, they don't get released. No. Some do, just to keep the illusion, right? And now they have effectively isolated old people so that you can't go in and hear their stories as to how they're being fucking treated. And these people in these big-ass fucking houses just want to sit there and stay quiet on this shit, people. Because in their mind, if they lose one, it's not a big thing anyway, because there's money attached to it in terms of if it's a Punjabi, for example, right? If a Punjabi grandma ends up in this struggle, like the Caucasian race is struggling right now with what's going on in this province in terms of how they're being targeted, okay? Whether it's the young people with the drugs, okay? Or if it's the old people for their money, like Uncle John, okay? The government doesn't give a shit. Everybody that's sitting up in their fucking houses, they don't give a shit. The majority of people don't give a shit because oftentimes those families are wanting to steal the money themselves, right? Like an Eleanor. The only reason Eleanor got away with it, people, is because she's been a senior nurse with the province for 40 years. They're not going to want that scandal, okay? They're not going to want to fucking put her ass in jail for committing a fucking crime when it's her crimes that brings them trillions of dollars in terms of old people's money going into the healthcare system, losing their assets, having to pay for temporary this, temporary for that, and then being forced to move into long-term care facilities, which now the government has privatized to Chinese companies, basically, right? Offloading the responsibility onto the Chinese, as the Chinese bring their fentanyl into this country and kill off families like my own. Whether it's straight up fucking murder, sitting up in your living room, having a smoke, getting ready to go to sleep because you were up all night looking after your baby, or whether it's someone like Ciera that maybe might have a chance in life and then is snuffed, literally snuffed out, not even 2 days later, after 4 days of being out of jail, to which she was targeted for this, people. They didn't want her getting the coronavirus, running the streets, being homeless. Hell no. They had to get her while she was just got out of jail. Do you honestly think these ministers are going to want to talk about this shit when I bring it to the fucking table with my next round of words? No. No. So if they're not going to talk about that kind of serious stuff, people, then Why are people willing to believe what's being fed to them now? In terms of, oh yeah, 109 deaths, all coronavirus. It's a serious epidemic. It's a pandemic. It's not an epidemic. It's a pandemic. And because of that pandemic, I am going to tell you how to live your life for the next 18 fucking months. And even then, after that, it's not going to be a new, it's going to be a new normal. It's never going to go back to the way it is. The only person that I'm hearing that's talking about bringing shit back to the way it is Trump. Okay? Because personally, he got set up, people. All right? You know, all of a sudden, you've got these fucking fearmongers going into power-mongering fucking overdrive with their one-for-all playbook. Okay? Do you honestly think that Trump wants to bankrupt the country for them? But the public themselves are falling for the old okie dokie. Because the public doesn't challenge their government. In the old days, they used to pick up stakes and stones and shovels and, you know, run in with their torches. They don't do that anymore, people. And half of these, 3/4 of these lawyers that we've got these days, they're fucking wusses. They're fucking wusses. They're just as corrupt as the ones that are harvesting you and your children, as they're selling off your country to foreigners, okay, that get off the fucking airplane and move straight into one of those fucking monster houses and then try and figure out how to get the next house so that they can repeat the process for somebody else from wherever they came from. Okay, they're not thinking about the Canadian-born people as a collective. They're not. My board director said to me, well, you know, like, aren't you happy that, you know, you've got a place that your landlord lets you stay? Isn't that enough? And I'm like, in terms of, like, they're Punjabi, right? They know I have no place to go. They're not stupid, right? But just because my landlords allow me to stay here doesn't remove the collective from being responsible to the society that they live in terms of, you know, there's a lot of people out there like me that are just sitting ducks to the, and my son doesn't like this word, political genocide that's flooding this country based on these politicians that we have right now changing the very fabric, the very fiber of society to suit another political agenda that does not include the prosperity of you and your family, unless, of course, you're at like $5 million, $10 million, $15 million fucking income in terms of classism. Let me read this. False illusion. They've brought about false illusion. The government is targeting the public. That's plain to fucking see. You can't get it any more plainer than what you're looking at right now. And they're using medical and a medical fucking scenario to do it. They now have put them in. They have now put themselves into a position of where they own your body and can target you and your loved ones and your body based on some science that hasn't even been fact-checked, because they've made sure that you can't fact-check it, people. Right? Psychological warfare, most definitely. Like I said, they're breeding racism, bigotries, prejudice. They're building in more classism. They're creating communism, right? They're breaking people's critical thinking skills in terms of being, you know, creative and motivated. You know, what they're doing is they're building in a working class drone, kind of like, you don't get to go to work unless we tell you where to go to work. You don't get to go to work unless we tell you this is where you're going to go and this is how much you're going to make. And if you don't do that, what we tell you to do, then there's going to be consequences around that. they're already setting the stage through this, people, by this lockdown of this. Look, I am not buying a pair of shoes for Andre online. I refuse to do it, people. Shoes fit differently on different feet. You cannot force me to buy a pair of fucking shoes for a child that's going to run in those shoes online because you want to fearmonger and powermonger the businesses out here in British Columbia, Canada, where they shut down and then eventually just fucking go away. So that you can corner me into a position of buying something online and hope that it fits when it gets here, assuming it won't be contaminated from the person that shipped it off to me or maybe delivered it to my fucking door, right? They like their false illusion, so it's possible mailman could give me the coronavirus every time he drops off my fucking envelopes, people. Every time he fucking drops off my own envelopes. You don't think I can't get the coronavirus from this shit? Right? But that's what they're doing. They're corralling the public to party hardy on the internet, right? Bring back porn. You know? I guess that will become more free now, right? That's their form of fucking entertainment. You can't go to the beach, can't go to the park. You can't even go to your fucking local skate park. You can't get nothing. Like, what kind of bullshit is that? Right? If that's not a false illusion as they bring you in psychological warfare with fucking threats on something that you can't even fucking fact check, right? I had every right, people, to have the right to do a second autopsy on my daughter's body. Okay? And through that process, because it was even denied in terms of like just viewing and identifying her body, right? It sparked a whole new, I don't want to say fight, but it's kind of like that. It's a fight. But the thing is, I'm having to fight it by myself because the ones that are sitting in these big fucking houses out here that have the money to pay for the lawyers, they don't want to fight for it right now, people, because they're still too busy fucking building wealth for themselves, drinking from that well. Ciera was from that well. As your government now is locking us even more and deeper into that trap of forced poverty, for one, manufactured poverty, right? You know, they're manufacturing on that poverty, people. Forcing people to basically stay in their houses by limiting the places that they can go. Forcing people to have to buy sub-quality fucking products that may or may not fit when they get to you, with no guarantee that they won't be contaminated when they get to you through delivery. All right? Fear-mongering, talked about that. Okay, purposeful, negligent, okay, let's just see. The government, I'm talking about the government, right? I'm anti-government here. They are being purposefully negligent via bias justice system. And because you can't even take them to fucking court right now. Not only can you fact check, not only can you not, right? You can't do this, fact check these deaths, but they've got it where in some instances you don't even get to witness those deaths. You never hear what those people who are dying have to say because they're being isolated to a few people that are so correct in terms of, oh, well, we would never commit crimes. No. We're a professional. We work in the healthcare system. We work with the RCMP. We work with the coroner's office. We do this, we do that. God forbid, we would never commit crimes, even though we have a booming underground economy in different sectors. Trafficking of organs is just one of them. And I've already given you 4 categories where illegal organ harvesting would flourish. But it wouldn't flourish unless they had the organs. And that's why they made it with it was almost like making a pact with the devil, right? When in terms of organ harvesting and like on a legal sense. Well, we're only going to take 25% out of the 100 or 33% out of the 100 because we don't want to touch the junkies, right? Because, you know, they could bring us something that we don't want, all right? Which makes it a fucking free market, right? One man's junk is another man's treasure. And because nobody questions it, people, they just build in more roadblocks to make it so it gets easier and easier to harvest us at the whim of the employees. Because it's the employees that facilitate it, people. The government employees facilitate it. The politicians themselves, they just ensure their pension plans and all that other shit. And yeah, maybe they do get some kickbacks, right? For every 1,000 that they harvest illegally, you know, maybe $100,000 or something goes back, right, to the one or two that are sitting in the fucking podium there, right? You know, in the pews or whatever those seats are called. But it's mainly the government employees. Rogue. Not all, just rogue. But yeah, no, what they've done is they've made it where you can only do emergency things in the courthouse so that even if you wanted to fight back in a legal sense, you really can't. They've taken your right away to fight back, people. If you were to file something right now saying that you disagree with the way... Hold on a minute. Okay, so you see this? This is on Facebook, people. If I make a post, they're just going to block me. Just like they blocked me on YouTube. And that's what I'm saying. They'll talk about what they want to talk about with the narrative, with that one playbook. Right? Regardless of the party, it doesn't matter, because this was a pre-orchestrated social experiment that's bringing in communism, where people are being targeted through the medical system. Did I not just file a lawsuit against that, people? That the healthcare system is targeting vulnerable families? Did I just not file a lawsuit around that, people? And this is what governments all across the continent, in terms of the United States and Canada, want to foster. And then, when you challenge them on it, go against the grain, don't fall for the old okie dokie, they just block you. They block you, and then they fucking stalk you. I'm not saying that the premier of this province is stalking me, but some of his employees are. And they're not only stalking me, people, they're stalking my family. And I have the proof. It's all lining up. One duck after another duck after another duck after another duck. And they just want to build in more measures to target more ducks. As they spin their playbook to convince you of that in terms of it's in the best interest of the general public. When we all know that the best interest of the general public is to let the underground economy flourish by any means necessary, as long as it continues to flourish, right? And it brings in that revenue, right, in terms of fentanyl sales, money laundering through the casinos, you know, flapjacking and you know, like flapping, you know, flipping flapjacks, you know, right, in terms of harvesting organs, right? Trafficking of body parts, right? And whatnot. Medical kidnapping of the elderly as they're being flushed out of their homes, right? And then the healthcare system uses their authority, right, to rewrite history and dictate how these old people are going to live for the rest of their lives. And then they lock them up, right? But they can't get in, can't get out unless you punch it in. And now they've brought in where you can't even witness how they're dying. And before all that happened, they made sure that you couldn't fact check anything, as they now expect you to buy a pair of shoes online and hope that they fit when they get delivered to your house, assuming that the package itself isn't contaminated. And then they're going to bring in 5G. People are still going to get sick, but of course they're never going to acknowledge that it has anything to do with radiation, right? Because they don't even acknowledge that there's energy weapons being deployed upon us people. Right? If I came in there and say, oh, you're a bunch of hogwash, I got proof of energy weapons, they're just going to block me, people. If I go in there and say I got proof that, you know, they're illegally harvesting organs through these so-called hospitals that you go on bragging on about how professional they are towards the public, right? They're just going to block me, people. Anyway, what was I saying? I kind of got into an argument with my son. See, my son, shit happens and he just moves on, basically. He internalizes his feelings, but he doesn't challenge the wrongs in the world like I do, people, and because of that, somehow, that makes him more superior than me. And anything that I do just doesn't measure up to his expectations. In other words, you know, I brought the camera for Ciera's burial. Why wouldn't I bring the camera for that, people? I brought the camera to the celebration of life for ShaMay. I mean, I can show you her urn. It's right there, right? In regards to Ciera, Ciera was a foot soldier to the bullshit crap that these politicians have been feeding the public for years and years and years and years and years under manufactured poverty, right? They like to keep control of the economy. They like to keep control of you know, people like me that speak out against the corruption within our government sector, aka government employees that use taxpayers' dollars to commit heinous crimes, right? You know, so what better way to shut me up than to attack my family members one at a time, mainly through the healthcare system, right? And they're just setting up the stage now where they can just target you through the healthcare system. And they don't have to be accountable to nobody, people. Absolutely nobody. Now, maybe that doesn't disturb my son, but it disturbs me. So it kind of makes me gloomy. It makes me gloomy because I know that I've got a big fight ahead of me with nobody backing me up outside of maybe some YouTubers that give me a thumbs up and give me moral support with their comments, and for that I do appreciate it. And in regards to Ciera, and you know, I didn't ask those city workers to, first of all, be there, okay? To me, it was like salt in a wound. And I sure in the hell didn't ask them to run up to the casket and carry the casket to, you know, some place that there wasn't even any dirt to throw into the ground, which makes you wonder because, what, they didn't lower the casket down? I mean, how do we know that casket even went into the fucking ground? Right. And they made it where you can't fight back, can't go to court, you can't, what is it called, impeach these people, You can't recall them. You're stuck with them. It's not like you can go to court and ask them to step down in terms of poor policies, right? In terms of what they're doing to millions of people in this province, you know, minus the rich fucks, right? I mean, they're flourishing, right? By any means necessary, those houses are being built. And going to my videos, and you really need to ask yourself, how are they paying these mortgages, people, when there's no jobs? And even when there is jobs, how is it these houses can go up house after house after house after house, but yet everybody's, you know, at a medium income of between 45,000 and maybe 80,000, which is not nearly enough to buy these houses as they're being built. But yet they're being built, and they're being filled up, and they're not being filled up by the people that are like born in this province or born in this country. Will the politicians talk about that? No, they won't. They'd block me before they talk about that. So we know that they're purposely being negligent via a biased justice system that distracts away from criminal activity. Been there, done that already, people. That is embedded into the government itself. Medical kidnappings, using emergency wards to transport bodies, whether alive or dead, for illegal organ harvesting purposes, at tax dollars paying for that activity, for the white-collar criminal activity. And there are no fact checks. Couldn't fact check ShaMay's body, couldn't fact check Ciera's body. We just know that both of them went into the emergency ward, right? Both of them had something taken out of them. And both of them you'll never know, because the government has made sure that you won't find out. And that's the fight, people. Right? Maybe not for my son. Doesn't mean that just because he doesn't want to fight for it, doesn't mean that it's not an honorable fight. Right? So yeah, so they basically shut down the courthouses to prevent people from fighting back, whether it's through lawsuits or asking for these politicians to step down. Right? You can't. Even if you filed it, you're not going to get in front of a judge. So they've made it where they can do whatever the fuck they want to do for as long as they want to fucking do it. And they give the minority groups, like the ethnic, like the ones that coming in on the airplanes and moving into all, they give them, you know, political fucking clout, right, to build more wealth for themselves, guaranteed that they're not going to go in there and bust up, you know, fucking cartels or criminal activity, right? You know, like I said, it was a Punjabi that harvested ShaMay's organs. They're not going to bust the Punjabi any more than they're going to bust that nurse that's been in the government for 45 years pushing immunization, when in another year and a half, 2 years from now, they're going to want that same very nurse pushing their new immunization as they target you through the healthcare system to see if you have the antibodies for the big bad boogie coronavirus. Because if you don't have those antibodies by then, they'll make it where, you know, you just won't get something. They'll target you in one way or another where, you know, you won't be able to function effectively as if you were not being targeted, right? To either one, knock you off the planet because they don't like competition, or two, to break you. And then use you as an example for others so that the others don't fight back, people. And because you've got this ethnic group over here building wealth for themselves, this ethnic group over here building wealth for themselves, and so on and so on, you know, there's nothing to push them back. Nothing to push them back. Anyway, has created a zombie nation of oppressed individuals who will lose touch with reality. which is already starting to happen. Being government has brought society to a false narrative that in essence has created prisons in mind and an environment that will stunt emotional, intellectual, social, and physical development of all people, while ensuring that the government can do what it wants without impunity, to be held responsible for the illegal activities which they just simply ignore by blocking you or making it so that you can't really do anything in court because there are no judges unless it's an emergency. And even when you do get in front of a judge, right, the judges are biased and prejudiced and are paid off to make sure that you don't go past an appeal board, because you'll never get in front of an appeal board, right? While ensuring that the government can do what it wants without impunity. We've seen that with Ciera. We've seen that with ShaMay. We've seen that with Uncle John. We've seen that with Amari. We've seen that with Andre. We see it with me. Can do what it wants without impunity, to be held responsible for the illegal activities government knowingly and unknowingly participate in, to uphold a underground economy, because that's what it boils down to, people, where the majority population is subject to be abused. But you see, the majority of the population, they don't see themselves as being abused, right? Because a lot of them participate in criminal activity, or if they're not directly participating in it, right, their personal biases and prejudices and all that, and you know, they don't get involved, people, because they don't think it's going to happen to them. Everybody, and so therefore, by isolating people even more into their homes and feeding into those bigotries and prejudices with the, oh, let's just be nice, let's be kind rhetoric, I don't know, mark my words, they're going to be feeding you something that you're not going to want to eat one day. Okay, people, I am so depressed. I haven't been saying, though, I'm depressed. I've been just saying I'm feeling gloomy. I don't know, people. I went off and I created more work for myself because of me feeling so gloomy. I went off and I went to go buy some meat. Well, I bought some, and tomorrow I'm going to be canning. Right? Because I don't live in no big fucking fantasy house plotting and scheming how I can get rich. Right? I invested my time and energy and money into my community, who has basically failed me. Okay? So in the meantime, I got this. My glasses keep breaking. I'm hooped. I don't even like these ones. Look at this. They were $8 a jar. So I bought 3. I saved myself $6. So that goes with my honey stash. And then, Because I'm worried about next year. I'm not worried about this year, people. I'm worried about next year. I'm worried about what's going to happen in the next 6 months to a year from now in terms of the cost of the food. They only had one. You can see, right? I mean, you don't get very much meat for $7, people. And that's just a round. Outside round. But anyway, I got that. But this is what I got for tomorrow. I am going to start preparing it tonight. I'm pretty sure it has the backs in it, like the bones. So I'm going to cut out the bones. And then I'm going to start, what is it called? I'm going to start some broth. Because I am going to ground some of this up. And I bought 2 boxes of jars. Okay. I bought 2 boxes of jars. So some I'm going to cut into cubes and can as cubes, and some in the you know, small salmon-sized jars. I'm going to ground it up, and I'm going to do it like I did with the turkey, right? Because that's really good. With or without carrots, I'll let you know. And then, so I bought 3 packs like that. It came up to $117, but with the $8 off. 5 packs, I got $40 off. So it cost me $76 just for that, people. Okay? And then I just picked up a little extra few bones that I'm just going to throw into the freezer after I repack the package, right? For soups. But this is how I deal with my depression. And I'm gloomy, right? I'm tired of being cut up over stupid shit. So I just want to show you what I'm going to do for the next, 1 or 2 days. I have to go downstairs into Auntie ShaMay's room, get up into the closet, pull out my pressure canner, right? Obviously, I'm going to be... I was going to go do something else tomorrow, but I'm really worried about having food, like meat in the house. I don't think people realize what the government slowly but surely is leading up to, people. Okay. And like I said, they made it where people just, they're not even going to attempt to fight back. Because it's psychological warfare, and they are convinced that they're doing the right thing as they're unaware of the criminal activity that's going on right under their noses. And when one of their loved ones die, they'll just accept it like it's nothing. Because a professional said it was nothing. Move along. When I went to the corner store today, before I went to the grocery store, the person that was working there, you know, I'm so sorry about Ciera. She was so nice, and she was always so helpful. Of course, some people know that, and other people not so much, right? What Ciera went through was completely unnecessary, people. It was a waste of a life. Yeah.